Hello, everybody. This is NanaTalks podcast, the first episode this year, and I'm incredibly happy and grateful and all of that to have my very first guest this year to open up this amazing year. I'm sure of it. With Jarrad, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to give you all the time in the world you're going to need to share a little bit about yourself. I don't want to talk on behalf of you. I'm already inspired. I'm already in love, but give that sense to everybody else.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you for this opportunity to highlight veterans like myself. Thank you so much to highlight veteran entrepreneurship. And, yes, I am truly excited for this to tell my story as well as to tell the story of my company, Veterans Technology Solutions, and what it really means to be a veteran entrepreneur. So I'm ready.
Yay. Thank you so much. So, Veteran Technology Service. Can you give a little bit more information about that? So, what are you working on? Because technology is very broad, very
Yeah.
broad word.
Yeah, so Veteran Technology Solutions USA, affectionately known as VTS, because, hey, in the military, we have acronyms for everything. We
Yeah.
are I mean, that is the reality of it. If we can make it shorter, we're going to make it shorter. I guarantee that. All right. We need to execute. We need to do it with passion. We need to do it with purpose. We need to do it with focus. I do not have time to say Veterans Technology Solutions USA. Wrong. VTS execute. Okay. So, we
And
are
you
a
better know what you're talking about, right?
Yes, definitely better. Or for all of my fellow brothers and sisters out there in arms, if you do not know what we're talking about, I will simply say position of attention, half left face, front leaning rest position, move, execute. One, two, three, one. All right. Don't make me go back to the non-commissioner days. All right. Non-commissioned officer, Staff Sergeant Turner. Trust me, this joker right here was not a nice staff sergeant. I like getting physical. I promise you. I promise you every day, all day, twice on Sundays. PT is free in the front leaning rest position. You will find rest. I guarantee I will help you find some rest in the front leaning rest. So I digress. Let's get back to it. We are a data infrastructure company. We are a cybersecurity company. We are a VAR. We're a value added reseller. We are based out of Atlanta, Georgia, but we do have an office in Washington, D.C. Our primary partners are IBM, Arrow Electronics, and our software partner is Prolifics. So the company has been in existence for the last 3 years. It was actually founded by a Navy veteran named Buck Gilbert. Unfortunately, we lost Buck. He passed 2 years ago to cancer. But his son, Chris Gilbert, who's also a Navy veteran, and the other co-founder, Dadisi Olutosin, who is not a veteran, but he is a veteran. He had veterans in his family. He likes to say that he grew up in Vietnam. So for Fayetteville, for those who don't know what Vietnam is, he was around when a lot of the veterans were coming back home from Vietnam. So that's why it was called Vietnam. But they had introduced me to the company. I am a former Army combat medic. And when I was medically retired, I served 2 tours in Iraq, and I was a 3rd Infantry Division combat medic. Dog-faced soldiers. I don't want to hear nothing for the Marines. It's not your fault you went to combat. Y'all went in after us because, clearly Marines are always last. And yes, I said it to all you raggedy doggone, what do you call your little self? Puppies or whatever you call Marines. I don't know. I just know you're behind the Army. Always remember that. Marines will always be behind the Army, okay? We don't need our big brothers to take us anyplace. We got our own vehicles. We got our own equipment. So, yes, I do talk a lot of trash. That's just
I mean, don't get me wrong. For me, it is so interesting. I'm still getting used to and trying to figure out. Okay, so Navy, Marine, and everybody has their own jokes, and this is just I love it. I do love this culture, these jokes. I like everybody are trying to tease each other. Love it. Go
it's
for it.
family. It's family.
Exactly.
Again,
That's how you can say that this is family, that you're
yeah, we can
fine
talk
to.
about our little brothers over there, just because their vehicles don't work and ours don't. Ours totally work. We had our own equipment, didn't need anybody to take us anyplace. And we were always first to the fight, because of course the president always knows who he needs to call first, and it's soldiers, not Marines. Remember that. But as a value added reseller, what we do, we work with companies that have legacy systems and we help them upgrade their systems. Again, IBM is our largest partner. And currently, we were very fortunate last year. Our sales in 2024 were good enough. Our revenue was good enough that last year, IBM, they had two reps with us, and now IBM has dedicated 30 reps with us. So when we talk about leaning in, when we talk about true patriotism, when we talk about being committed to the cause, I really must give a shout out to IBM, especially the team here out of Atlanta, Georgia. They are amazing. And also our partners at Arrow Electronics and, like I said, Prolifics. On the on the AI side of the house, what we're also doing with our IBM partners through Watson X, we are also exploring the opportunities that we're going to have to use AI in the advancement of very specific military related opportunities, specifically one around traumatic brain injury and the other around cancer. I am a cancer survivor. I also, due to the injuries I sustained on my second deployment, I also was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. So, as a veteran, as the CEO of VTS, and also as a person that has served the country and understands what it is to take an oath, just like when we say the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States, you're taking an oath. And part of that oath is to give back to my fellow brothers and sisters in arms. It does not matter that I do not wear the uniform anymore. That oath has no expiration date. So therefore, it is in my heart, it is in my blood, and it is imperative, yes, as a business owner, to still do great things and great work for the communities that we're serving. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Can you please unfold a little bit for me that path from combat medic to cybersecurity? I mean, when back in, well, in my days in Ukraine, I was one of four girls on the computer science course in the university. And I do remember when I was starting to grow up and build up my career, and I was looking for becoming delivery and engineering manager and etc. Everybody was asking me, what is your path? Are you from good HRs who decided, well, let me like start to code, or are you from bad coders who couldn't like build up their career being an engineer, so now you decided to manage the engineers? So my answer was like, I'm a bad coder. I'm a bad coder. Well, what are you gonna do about that? Right now, I'm here to manage you. Also, not that fancy coders, so just deal with that. But I do know that, as you mentioned, everybody has a story. But what's the story behind that movement or switch from the combat medicine? And I would imagine that this is more like closer to your experience, to your heart, everything connected to the medicine rather than to the technology and cybersecurity.
great question, and I appreciate that question. I enlisted in the Army in 2000 after graduating from Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama. I worked at a facility called the Southern Poverty Law Center. While working at the Southern Poverty Law Center, I actually met two gentlemen. One happened to be a Marine, and the other one happened to be a soldier. And they inspired me to enlist. And because I wanted to be a medic, and I thought the best way for me to give back was to be a medic. I actually have a bachelor's degree in business, but I was really drawn to the medic side of the house, if you will. Now, enlisted in 2000, of course, September 11th takes place. So after being part of the initial push into Iraq, and then on my second deployment, unfortunately, was in a RPG attack, and subsequently ended up having to have four shoulder surgeries, two elbow surgeries, two surgeries on my jaw, and I got filleted open by a piece of shrapnel. So when you want to know why or how did I, as a medic, get into technology, it was actually because I started losing so many comrades or brothers in arms to suicide. And it just didn't make sense to me. I was very fortunate to do a few studies. One was through the CDC, the other one was through Bristol Myers Squibb. And in doing those studies, you use what? Technology. So for me, it was how do we bring both of these worlds together, if you will? Um, I was very fortunate after I was medically retired from the Army, living here, coming back, or I was stationed in Fort Stewart. So when I say coming back to Georgia, I mean coming back to Georgia since being stationed in Fort Stewart. What was I was very fortunate to encounter was a medical facility here called the Shepherd Center. At that time, Bernie Marcus, who was the co-founder of Home Depot, he was also a veteran. And what he had recognized is that the injuries that we were sustaining while in combat, the VA was not going to be able to take care of that. It's due to the amount of the explosions, how often the IEDs and everything that we were exposed to. So he created a program there called the Share Military Initiative at the Shepherd Center. I was in the second cohort of that program, and subsequently, I was able to receive the treatment that I needed. Traumatic brain injury affects all of us in so many different ways, but the way that it TBI affected me was, unfortunately, I was on 3 pages of medication. I had 5 sleep meds alone. That's You can't
Whoa.
sustain yourself off of that. But again, I was able to meet a wonderful team at the Shepherd Center. So I understood I was able to get the treatment that I needed, and I was trying to help, trying to understand what was the disconnect. Why is it that so many of us are transitioning from service, and why can't we get to the services that we need? Why were so many of us making that decision to say, hey, I just can't do it anymore, and this is what I'm going to do? I just could not equate it. I understood what was taking place, but I had to know the why. And I was hoping that technology could tell me the why, or potentially give me some identifiers that would say, hey, if I got some brothers and sisters, some battle buddies going through this, and we see this through technology, hey, maybe we can do something different about that. So that's really that's what got me into technology. Um, After working at the VA hospital here, and after working at what's called the regional office here, VA regional office, I also worked at a nonprofit called Wounded Warrior Project. I was a national service officer, so I worked with veterans and their benefits. And that was great, but I felt that there was a greater need here in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's when a gentleman named Scott Johnson and we co-founded the Warrior Alliance. So my technology skills came up again there, to when we opened up the door of the Warrior Alliance in late 2018. We had 700 contact records. Well, you have 700 contact records. What are you supposed to do with them? Well, the best CRM platform, customer relations management tool, is Salesforce. So use my technology with Salesforce. So throughout this period of time, I've been using technology to answer questions, to give me insight, to provide direction when it comes to working with veterans, when it comes to improving the lives of not just our veterans, but those who are currently serving. Because guess what? At some point in time, you are going to take the uniform off. So that's what got me into technology. That's what kind of furthered my learning when it comes to technology. And now, being the CEO of Veterans Technology Solutions and having a partner like IBM, I mean, it's not too often that you can spend almost 15 years in the nonprofit sector and then transition to the for-profit sector and end up with a partnership with an IBM. But we've been able to do that because the co-founders of VTS Both of them have over 25 years of experience as IBMers. Yes, one of them, or the co-founder, the original co-founder, was a veteran, Navy veteran, like I said, and his son being a Navy veteran. But both of them, after their military careers, ended up working for IBM. So it's the relationship that they actually had that I've been able to further through my leadership capabilities at VTS.
Whoa, that's a lot, and that's amazing. And honestly, I'm just like trying to figure out what I want to talk about next. Let's at first talk about a little bit about your experience at nonprofit, and then we're gonna jump back to the for-profit, if that's all right for you.
Sure. Yeah, let's
But
go.
nonprofit. Can you please again give me a little bit more? I've heard about this nonprofit. Don't get me wrong. I do know, your folks, but also I've heard about other nonprofits, and I don't want to point fingers or anything like that, but I've heard from veterans that, well, we've called to this and that nonprofit and they're promising help, but they're not giving any help, and it feels to us that they're just making money on behalf of our suffering. And I tend to believe that most probably it's just the lenses.
Hmm.
But I really wanted to talk about this specific question and topic a little bit, just to, I don't know, again, brought up some light into
Hey,
it.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So, the my experience in the nonprofit arena, if you will, one with the Wounded Warrior Project. Wounded Warrior Project, when their doors opened, they were extremely innovative. I'm very appreciative to them for their health and wellness aspect. I'm very appreciative of them when it came to their National Service Officer program. We helped a lot of veterans get connected to their service benefits, if you will. Um, that's the amazing things. Those are the amazing things, bar none. Um, Wounded Warrior Project has been amazing. The reason that we open the doors of the Warrior Alliance is simply this: we don't believe that veterans are broken. We believe that veterans have had some challenges. We believe that veterans have made a lot of sacrifice. And because those challenges and sacrifices, what we believed and what was proven by the data that we had through our Salesforce platform was veterans are incredibly skilled, knowledgeable, passionate, and committed. However, the time that we had in active duty, the time that we had serving abroad, those are times that we didn't get a chance to network. We didn't get the chance to build the relationships and have the foundations that our civilian counterparts did have. So, what we realized is that that transition, that moment that the 6 months, the year to 6 months before you get ready to separate from service, and those almost 3 to 5 years after you separate from service, those are the most critical points in time where the community needs to come together. So, as I mentioned, I was very fortunate when I was medically retired. One of the first people that I met was Bernie Marcus. He was one of the co founders of Home Depot. The other co founder of Home Depot and the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, Arthur Blank, he had came to the Warrior Alliance and he had said, "Hey, I can't believe that in Atlanta, Georgia, a city, a metropolitan area that has over 280,000 veterans, that there's not one single point where veterans can go to. There's not one single point outside of the VA that their families can go to when they can get the resources that they need." And in the state of Georgia, there is a multitude of veteran service organizations. Yes, we acknowledge that. However, what is the impact of the work that those veteran service organizations do? Just like the national organizations, how do you measure the impact? And what you're alluding to is, yes, there has definitely been some organizations that may have not been as fruitful when it comes to, or we'll say they may have not lived up to their mission when it comes to doing the things that they should have done when it comes to veterans and their families. However, with that being stated, because we use our database, we use our metrics to understand what is the impact, what is the need. It was never, "Hey, I'm Jarrad Turner and I know everything about veterans." No, you don't. If you know one veteran, then you know one veteran. You have no earthly idea what is important when it comes to each veteran. You just don't know. So with that being said, it is one of those things where it is, look, let the data tell us what the needs are. Let the data tell us where the need is coming from. And then what we did is partnered with the best in class organizations throughout the greater Atlanta metropolitan area so they can continue being the best of the best of the best. We became their uh, case management. We became their marketing tool. We became that entity that would make sure that when a veteran comes to us, we refer them to the organization or the entity, but more importantly, we consistently followed up with the veteran to make sure that they never got lost in that connection. We know that a lot of organizations had said, hey, look, yeah, I'll connect you. I'll send an email, I'll make a phone call. And guess what? We never hear from them. We never understand what is equality. We just don't. And that is one of the things that has truly hurt our veteran population, is that there is no accountability. And yes, we know it's hard, but listen, if you're going to refer somebody, if you're going to communicate with somebody, you need to make sure you have communication with them at a minimum every 15 to 30 days. So on the veteran side of the house, that's why we created the Warrior Alliance. When we opened up the doors of the Warrior Alliance in 2018, we had 700 contacts, 700 veterans in the organization. Prior to me leaving to join VTS, we had over 15,000 veterans in the organization. So I'm definitely proud of the work that I've done. I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of the people, and I'm thankful that the veterans that we served had given me and the Warrior Alliance an opportunity to serve them.
Yeah, that's a lot. You mentioned a couple times during sharing this whole story behind the Warrior Alliance. How did you study the data? Can you go a little bit deeper? Because it seems to me that this understanding of learning from data, understanding your customers, or as you've told me before the recording, it is important to listen and have that skill to listen. So, can we go a little bit toward that road?
Yeah, let's dig into the data. Data is data. And when I say that, you have good data, you have bad data. It's really, what are the questions are you asking to get to that data? There's a multitude of data points, there's a multitude of data sets, but the question is, did you ask the pertinent question to give you the right answer when it came to the data? One of the things that we did at the Warrior Alliance is, again, the organization was based upon my transition from active duty to veteran status. However, it's not about me. It is about every man and woman that picked up the phone to call in for resources. It's about every man and woman that sent an email to register with us when it came to resources. What we started understanding is the greater Atlanta metropolitan area is made up of over 10 counties. Okay, cool. One county that's an hour away may not be beneficial to the next veteran. And we had to understand that. We started looking at the barriers. What are the barriers to support? What are the barriers to entry? What are the barriers to ensure that veterans felt and understood that they are seen, heard, and they are truly important? Understanding the data, which was, okay, we have multiple eras of veterans. So that was one of the things that I learned from Wounded Warrior Project. Whereas WWP, again, great work, respect the heck out of them. They focused on post 9/11. What we understood is you have Vietnam era, you had Korean War era, you had Desert Storm, Desert Shield era. You had a lot of different eras of veterans. And what we understood is service is service. I don't care when you served, the fact that you decided to raise your hand and serve, that is the most important thing. We also understood, again, our veterans aren't broken. So we had to start breaking down the different eras. We had to start breaking down what are the different types of experiences, i.e., what are the types of injuries? We know that the post 9/11 injuries is typically concussion, post traumatic, TBI, blast trauma. We understood that Desert Storm, Desert Shield that there was not a lot of understanding because the war was so short. A lot of lay people would say, oh, that was a short war. I challenged them. You go ahead, leave your family for a prolonged period of time with a rifle and some equipment, and we'll find out just how short it is. Okay. But we understood that the signature injury of that was actually chemical exposure, burn pits, and other items like that. We understood that Vietnam era, there was a lot of, well, we didn't know what we didn't know, i.e., there was no post traumatic stress disorder back in Vietnam. Unfortunately, people used to say, hell, say you were shell shot. No, trauma is trauma. PTS, not PTSD, but post traumatic stress is the normal response to something traumatic. Veterans, unfortunately, because of the type of work, the type of service that we had, yes, we quite often had a lot of prolonged exposure. We were more susceptible to more fights, more reoccurring trauma, and that's why the symptomology is what it was. We understood that when we created the Warrior Alliance, and in understanding that, we created data sets that would allow us to get that information from a questionnaire. So it was a lot of using Salesforce, Tableau, some of those things to quantify the amount of data that we were getting.
All right. So now you have all the data. You do understand your community.
Hmm.
What the next steps? You do understand that, like, okay, as you've just described, right? That we do
Hmm.
have this type and this type of trauma, and these folks need the help, but now they do need the help.
Right. So for us, that's where we connected with the right community partners. I highlight the Shepherd Center because that is the program that's had the most impact upon my life, because they were the ones who diagnosed my traumatic brain injury. And for me, with a mild TBI, unfortunately, I was on 3 pages of medication. Again, 5 sleep meds alone. So traumatic brain injury was just wreaking havoc all over my life. Um, what we understood is when we had veterans who said, hey, I'm having headaches, light sensitivity, and a few other things, we knew that these veterans had potentially never heard of the Shepherd Center. But when they come to us, we would directly refer them to the Shepherd Center. So that's where being able to partner, being able to understand, okay, this is your need. Now I have a community partner that we can connect you to. But that's also the same thing that actually led me into leaving the nonprofit side and going to the for profit side. What I believed is that, and the data has shown it, we say we love our veterans, we say we love our service members, but the reality of it is this: we actually don't have positive outlooks when it comes to our veterans. We think that the system is broken. We think that, hey, if you're serving, that that's your only option. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. We are not the era, the post 9/11, the Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom. We are not the generation that, hey, this is the only choice we had. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. I lost friends during 9/11. Many of us have served our country because we realized, if not us, then who? Somebody had to step up. Somebody had to take that pledge. So, unfortunately, there has been a lot of funds that have been thrown towards veteran space, but not enough of accountability. And one of the things for me personally is, over the last 20 years of war, what improvements have we truly made? We've made a few, but not enough. So for me, one of the reasons that it was important to take what I had learned as far as data, what I had learned as far as machine learning and AI, and how do we partner? How do you build relationships to solve problems? That's why it was now time for me to go ahead and make that transition. Yes, there are some nonprofits that are still there. The Warrior Alliance is still there. There's a few other nonprofits, but I have extensive background, and I don't just mean background in, hey, I sit in a cubicle and I'm out here, just pointing fingers. No, I get my hands dirty. I get out here, blood, sweat, and tears, and we make it happen. And I say that because after I completed my program there at the Share Military Initiative, I was fortunate to join a team which is called the Shepherd's Men. And the Shepherd's Men, we have physically run from New York to Atlanta, Boston to Atlanta, Chicago to Atlanta, 7 to 9 days of running with our ballistic vest on. We have, from the Flight 93 Memorial, we've done a ruck march with 93 pounds to honor the men and women who died on Flight 93. The thing that is different about me than others, again, yes, I've taken the uniform off. But that oath that I have, that oath that I took, the oath that my brothers and sisters took to serve our nation and to defend our nation from foreign and domestic, that oath has never expired. And that oath has held me to a higher standard. I've just been very fortunate that I've never had to do it by myself. I've always been able to rely upon the relationships that I've been able to build over time to come together to solve some problems. So I believe that, again, the data, the experiences, the meeting of great people understanding that if we come together, we can solve some problems. This has been extremely beneficial for me. And that's why I made the transition from the nonprofit side to the for-profit side.
Right. Okay, so now let's dream together. I'm all in for AI, of course. I'm technology girl. I don't know, woman, you name it, whatsoever. But
Yes.
I tend to believe that yes, there is the great future. Maybe not that bright, maybe not that scary, because I do remember when all this topic around AI was unfolding, everybody was like, oh, Skynet.
Right.
And I was like, hold on, just yeah, hold on.
Right.
I still do remember when I was like, presented toward I've seen my first like laptop computer, and
Right.
I was Ukrainian girl. So the difference was like huge. And what was absolutely normal for you back in United States, for me in 90s, that was like the miracle, right? Just the magic out of box. And I do remember when I was like, wow, internet, oh my god, libraries, now I can read, now I can get all the information. And you can
Right.
imagine my like, um well, frustration to say at least, when it appears that whole internet going to be fulfilled with the kittens and problems like he said, she said, and all other type of bullshit, and that's it. And only now you can actually study in MIT, in Stanford, without paying a dime, and you
Right.
can visit the lectures, you can get it. But that was a huge pass, right? That we spent tons of time. But I still believe that, robotic drivers, that's a great idea to prevent all the casualties and all the injuries and traumas which happen on the roads, because we get tired, because we're human beings, and this
Mhm.
is normal. I tend to believe that there is a bright future behind the AI, ML, and the data we can collect and we can work with. And you mentioned that you also a big believer about that, and that you are interested in everything connected to the cancer and mental health. But this is very broad topics, they're huge. We can work on the like prevention, especially when we're talking about cancer, right? That's are about prevention, or early diagnostic, or like post diagnostic support. So there is the like, it is amazingly huge topic. Have you already picked some areas you would like to stay focused on, or that's still under like consideration and discussion?
So the areas that we are focused on as a company is traumatic brain injury, as well as early detection and screening when it comes to cancer for marginalized communities. When we say marginalized communities, unfortunately, sometimes people think, oh, people of color. I like to inform people marginalized communities just means people that do not have the opportunities and the access to resources, i.e., typically anybody that lives in rural America, anybody that does not hit a certain threshold, anybody who has less than that is typically a marginalized community. And when you start looking at the way that our insurance system is right now, currently, the insurance rates are going through the roof, and unfortunately, people's pay is not increasing as equally as their insurance is. So, one of the biggest things that we can do when it comes to our AI tools for the traumatic brain injury side is we can use our educational partners, we can use our medical partners, and we can receive data sets, and we can crunch those numbers faster than they can have a team of 20 data scientists. As you said, it's a lot of machine learning, ML. And as we are doing the ML, then we are able to use the AI to look at the predictive analytics opportunities, if you will. But it all does start with the proper questions. And the reason that we're using our AI tool to also look at cancer is because, unfortunately, if you remember, if you go back, as I was explaining, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, there was a lot of toxic exposure. Post 9/11 veterans, there's a lot of toxic exposure. They're starting to see that we, as veterans, unfortunately, our life is being shortened because of the exposure we have. So the gift is that partnering with somebody like the VA gives us opportunities to collect a lot of data, and that data is not identifiable data. Just so everybody understands that it is merely male, female, age, when you served, when you separated from service, where you were deployed at, and I'm not at liberty to say all that we are being able to learn, but it is AI and technology, ML, if you will, are allowing us to come to market a lot faster than it's ever been before. Yes, I believe that there is a responsibility that we all have when it comes to technology. But I am not fearful of the technology. I am truly astonished by the technology, but I also understand the responsibility of the technology. And I actually think that we need more opportunities, especially here in the United States, especially in those same marginalized communities. We need to have more educational opportunities in how do we use the technology in rural America? How do we use the technology in the metropolitan areas where not all of the kids are treated equally? How do we bring more of a partner like IBM or a partner like Microsoft? And how do we get technologists to go to those areas? How do we get more women? How do we get more marginalized communities? And again, anybody that has a disability, guess what? You're part of a marginalized community. So let's not think that that has to do with your race or your color or whatever. You're part of a marginalized community. If you're a veteran, you're part of a marginalized community. So,
Yeah, well, hello then, right?
right.
Uh, uh,
Hello.
yeah, I'm here with you. I tend to believe that we are still need to explore all the areas and everything which can be improved by the technologies. And I'm here with you with the idea that we have to think about rural America, manufacturing, oil and gas. There are tons of spheres where the people uh, suffering. They are doing very extremely dangerous jobs with the extremely tiny wages, and there are no protection, and that can be replaced with the technologies. The only thing I would tend to like, if we can discuss, is the education. I'm a huge fan of the idea that the educations should be one of the first. It's not the very first, but one of the first priorities: family and education, because that's essentially the building blocks of the nation. At least in my opinion, in my mind, right? I'm a mother, and for me, it is very important to make sure that I'm gonna leave to this society, to this nation, good human being, highly educated, that he will be able not only provide to his own family, but also make an impact, help other people, provide the proper knowledge and everything to his children then.
Correct.
So for me, it is very like that's my favorite soapbox. Let's put it that way. One is the like true help, not don't say just do. That's it. They're gonna see that. And the second one is education and support of the family. And I tend to believe that maybe technology in education, especially for the primary school, maybe they're not the best option because I can see the exposure to the technology for my son. He's 10, and essentially tons of everything they're doing back in school are connected to the technology. Like, here's this program, just go there and check it out. And it's supposed to be funny, it's supposed to help him, but I can see how disconnected he is from the other children because they're not talking, they're not teasing each other, they don't have that experience of the teacher sharing not only the like academic knowledge but also some moral ideas. I do remember my first teacher,
Right.
and she was for me not only the building block, the major building block of everything connected to the, again, academic type of knowledge, but also she was the one who taught me that if the, I don't know, uh, somebody with a disability will come into the bus, no matter
Hmm.
what, you have to just hop off and you have to create the space for this person. You have to be respectful, and you don't have to like, you have to be curious, ask questions, don't judge. She was the one who essentially brought these ideas on top of my family to my mind, and I'm not sure if this type of ideas can be replaced with the technologies, even though
So,
I'm all in for technology.
so what you're what you're actually referring to is just what, as adults, what are we going to be responsible for? Um, Technology, education, as a business owner, it is imperative that I am looking to develop the next pool of employees. I need to help develop the next workforce. We traditionally think about that as, hey, let's start in middle school. But we need to start earlier than that by our habits. And whereas technology, social media is definitely technology, YouTube is definitely technology, but we need to think about what are we exposing our kids to. Learning, it can definitely be fun. However, we need to make sure, and as a business owner, we need to make sure part of our corporate responsibility is whatever we have identified for us, again, data infrastructure, programming, machine learning, cybersecurity. These are all things that we have partnered with, and we're looking to do even more partnerships with areas of learning. Why? I want to develop that next work pool. I want to selfishly develop that next work pool. I want that next work pool to compete with every other nation. So we have to start earlier. Um, I do understand people's apprehensions. I do. I totally get it. However, I think it goes back to what is my responsibility? Yes, does my kid need a phone? Who knows? It's your life. You have to determine whether your kid needs a phone, and you also have to determine if your child needs a $1,400 iPhone. It's not a phone. It's a small computer. I promise you. Break down the amount of processing speed. Break down the chip in that thing, and you will
My first
understand.
computer were worse than my iPhone. My first computer, I can tell you that from the technology standpoint. As
There you
the
go.
as someone with the computer science diploma, I can tell you for sure. My very
And those
first
are the
computer,
And
much
those are the
worse.
things that we have to be cognizant of. We have to, as adults, as parents, as leaders, we have to understand I am not just giving you a phone. I am giving you something that will potentially access things that you should not see. Why? Because you don't have the mental maturity to understand what you're even viewing. So, therefore, you don't need to be exposed to those things. Now that goes back into I have my rights. Look, I'm never here to talk about anybody's rights. I'm here as a business owner. I'm here as a leader. I'm here as a veteran. I'm here to say that technology is what's going to help us get to these advancements. I'm here to say partnerships will help us get to these advancements. I'm also here as a business owner, as a leader. Hey, I want to partner with you in making sure that in high schools we are having these AI courses. I need you to understand, hey, outside of AI, guess what? I need somebody to do what? Maintain my servers. There is not enough technology in the world that's going to replace an individual who's maintaining those servers. The average age of a person who is working, physically working in a data center is actually 64. So we need to expand what we think about when it comes to technology. And we also need to, again, look at how vast technology is. Again, the things that I learned as a medic, the things that I learned as an athlete, the things that I learned as a nonprofit leader, all of them have been encompassed in technology. Technology is a tool. It is a tool. Machine learning, you still need somebody to help that. You still need somebody to program. You still need somebody to code. Can we do coding? Yes, we can do it a lot faster. We can, guarantee. But guess what? How much water is all that processing taking? How much power is all that processing taking? So, folks, if you're thinking outside of the box, you're actually realizing the technology is creating more opportunities. So, those folks who have worked at power plants, guess what? Now you got nuclear energy. Retool. Don't be afraid of learning. That's all that is. Do not be afraid of learning. Embrace the change. Yes, it is friction. Yes, it's going to be challenging, but you don't have change unless you have friction. So it's, for me, it's very simple. Get ahead of it. Get ahead of it. I'd rather get ahead of it so I can learn. As parents, we always want to make sure that our kids have the opportunities that we did not have. But also, as parents, remember some of the things that they have, we couldn't even envision. Okay? We could not even envision. I mean, I am old school. I had a Sony Walkman that had a disc in it, okay? My kids are like, "What the heck is a Sony Walkman?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, whatever. Leave me alone. I know I'm old, you know?" Um
Yeah, when
there
I
I
was
had
trying to explain to my son what cassette stands for and why
Oh
I
my
had to
gosh,
use
yeah.
my pencil because my like reverse button didn't work
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So you had to be very careful and
Yes,
just
you have
spin
to be
it.
incredibly careful. But those are experiences that, yes, we'll never go back to those. So our kids can't relate to that. So we have to understand, just like our parents, they couldn't see some of the things that we have. Well, we're not going to see some of the things that the kids have. However, there are some fundamentals, and that's what you're referring to. Look, where's your humanity? That's it. That's all you're saying. If there is somebody who's less fortunate, where's your humanity? That's it. Where's your consideration? Where's your compassion? Um, Again, as a combat veteran, my experiences are going to be way different than a lot of other people. They are. Hey, first deployment was 15 months. Okay? Guess what? I can't tell you what it is to be in 140-degree weather. I can't tell you what it is, bombs going off, yada, yada, yada. Yes, I have a completely different skill set. I do. Very, very different. Does that mean that I don't have compassion? No, it does not. I don't care what I've done. Yeah, I've run from New York to Atlanta on a team. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, great. It was inspiring. It was motivating. It serves its purpose. It doesn't mean I'm better than anybody. Yes, I'm a CEO. Still need to have humility and compassion. You have to have those things. So yes, technology, amazing. We need it. Embrace it. Love it. Dig deeper into it. Try to break it on a regular basis, folks. Try to, because that's how we're going to make it better. But at the same time, never forget your humanity. And I know that some of your the listeners might say, well, wait a minute, what does this have to do with business? It has everything to do with business. How do you think you're going to be an effective leader of teams? You will get the teams that, guess what, they can make money anywhere they want to, but they're going to want to follow you. Why do they want to follow you? How do you carry yourself? What are the values that you have? What are you able to instill in the work that you're doing? Why are you doing the work that you're doing? If it's just to make money, I promise you, you won't last long. I
Oh, yeah.
promise you.
Same applies to the customer. If you're just trying to make some money out of your customers, well, you're not going to survive for a long time, right?
You won't.
You really need to fill them. You really need to serve. And like and the money is essentially like additional price.
It is. There's a price. There is a price. In the nonprofit world, donor dollars. Donor dollars. You have to understand somebody is sacrificing to give you that dollar. In the for-profit world, what is their customer experience? Is the tools that I'm creating right now going to make your life easier, going to make your life more efficient? Because we are, whether it's on the data infrastructure side again, how are we making sure that our customers' data is safe, secure, trusted, locked in? It's everything. It has to be all of that. How are we bringing this to them at a value that's going to allow them to do other things? If I break that relationship, I won't be in business long. On the medical side of what we're doing, look, if I can solve problems, that means our nation, our community, and our nation is better. So everything has a price.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, and I mean the fact that you are using or trying to use the technology in these spheres. I mean the injuries and cancer. Those are incredibly complex and scary questions. I have to be honest here. It is scary. Both of the topics are, and we still don't know how to deal with them, even
Right.
though we're so progressive and we're so modern, you name it, and we still don't know. We still don't know. We still do not have not only all the answers, but at least these answers. And
But you
and
know
this is
something?
amazing.
So here's the thing. It's scary, right? What better population to support than your veterans? The job we did was scary. I promise. If you meet any veteran who says, "Hey, I ran into combat and I was gonna, when I had to kick that door, when I had to breach that door, I wasn't scared."
No.
Promise you, that's not a veteran. Don't worry about it.
Come on.
Promise you, stolen valor. That is totally not a veteran. I promise you that. It's not that we don't have fear. It is that the mission is so important that we have to overcome our fear. Technology can be scary, but the good that we can do with technology is worth going toe to toe with fear. That's one of the things I love about being in this position that I'm in right now, and I love my company. We have the experience. We are pushing the envelope down. We are pushing, we are breaking barriers. We have already had some very, very good, fruitful operations come through, if you will. We've already had some success. We've already identified some things. And yes, it is scary. If I pull all of this data, what am I finding out about you? Wait a second. I may not want all that data. Hey, that's a whole separate conversation. But we are ethical in everything that we're doing. So therefore, I feel great about where our company is going. I do know there are some other companies that may not be so ethical. To the consumer, I like to tell you, be very careful who you're engaging with. You're going to want to, we'll address two things. You said fear. Hey, I'm always going to say, find a veteran owned business. I promise you, taking our experiences, whether on or off the battlefield, we are tenacious, we are thoughtful, we are proficient. We will do what needs to be done, and we will make sure that you are satisfied with the results that I promise. Okay. On the other side, when it comes to dealing with ethical companies, folks, the internet is powerful. You might get away with it for a short period of time. I promise you, being ethical is imperative. One of the main reasons that IBM is partnering with VTS is because we are ethical. We are committed to the cause, and they know that. So
Yeah, that's the beauty of free market.
that it
There
is.
are tons of proposals out there, but my man, who will survive? Only those who are providing true value.
Hey, competition is a beautiful thing. I
Oh
love
yeah,
it.
absolutely, it
I
is.
love it.
It is. And getting back, again to my experience as the like Ukrainian child, I do remember that dream about America. And it
Hmm.
wasn't about like, the land of everything, like where the only richest people are living. No, the dream that you can come and build your own company.
Hmm.
You can do that. And no one will shut you down. No one will, hey, there may be even gonna be people who will support you.
Correct.
It seems to me that sometimes people over here are tend to forget about that, maybe because they're growing with those opportunities. But when you're coming from abroad and you're realizing that, wow, there is the possibility to open up your business, there is a free market, and you can compete, and you can become better, and you can analyze data, you can do it, everything.
Well,
It
that's actually
is.
one reason that I want to thank you for your platform, and I want to thank you for your vision. Do not blush, but you came here with a
I'm trying
purpose,
to.
a dream, and a mission, and look at it. You focused on the veteran population. You are a community. You're part of a community. This is what makes our nation so great. Being a veteran-owned business owner, this is it. When you ask why America, why here, why now? Look, I served my country. I serve my country and I will continue to serve my country. That is one of the best things. It is, I guess, I had an opportunity to do something great. I can continue to keep doing some great things. Yes, nobody's asking for perfection. We can always be 1% better every day. But that's what makes us an amazing nation, because it is the differences that we can collectively come together and make amazing advancements. I just want to thank you right now. Yes, on your show, I want to thank you for looking at veterans as not broken down, as looking at veterans as not downtrodden, but looking at veterans as people that need to be respected. Looking at veterans and say, hey, I can do something to highlight the opportunities that you would traditionally not have. And looking at veterans for the value that they bring, not just in business, but to the community. Because uh, again, when it comes to VTS, as well as other companies, I just don't believe that you're going to sit there, make whatever revenue off of an area, but yet you're not going back into the same area and giving back. I mean, sustainability, I mean, goodwill. I'm saying, what does it mean to be ethical in the things that you're doing? So I just wanted to take this time to applaud you for the things that you have done. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you. For me, it is pleasure and honor to serve this community, to serve this country. That's my way to say thank you for the safety, for myself, for my family, for my son, for the possibility to rebuild our life, knowing that we are safe.
Well, we
I
appreciate it.
I really don't want to, face in any nearest future bombs under my hat or under hat of my child. It's not
Right,
about me; it's about my son,
right,
and that cannot be overestimated. It cannot be. I cannot even, explain what does it mean to feel that you are safe.
hmm,
Your child is safe.
right,
My child will never know what does it mean to hear the sirens, to hear the bombing. He will never knew what does it mean to be without light, electricity whatsoever.
right.
He might be exposed to other, difficulties in his life, but at least that I've provided him. And not because I'm so great, but because of this country, because of the people of this country and the nation who built blocks by blocks this feeling of safety. And that's like huge shout out to everybody who's serving now, who served. You are the one who built that feeling all over the world. If you're gonna ask what is the safest place in the earth, I promise you, United States gonna be there.
Well,
And your brothers and sisters, you are those who build it up. Because at the end of the day, no matter how powerful and like machine, right, the country machine, how much money you're spending or wasting, at the end of the day, that's all about these folks who are ready to go to the battlefield. Ukraine is tiny country compared to Russia. Like, you clearly
right,
can see the
right.
difference. But
Mhm.
we're still standing. So it's not about the money by itself. Same applies to United States. I firmly believe so. It's not solely about, again, as someone may or tend to believe, right? That, well, they have tons of money, they're spending like on their military machine. Yeah, but if you won't have people
Right,
who are taking that oath, who are serving, who are ready to do that, you do not have army. You do not have military force. And
right.
this country have it. And I'm incredibly grateful.
Well, as a veteran, as an Army veteran, I just wanted to say I greatly appreciate that. I also want to say I greatly appreciate this time to hear my story, to hear the story about Veterans Technology Solutions. And I really, I'm excited. I am excited. So I just want
Yeah,
to say
same
thank you.
here.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for being here, for being the first guest in this year. I believe that this year gonna be amazing. Thank
It
you
will be.
so, so much.
It's going to be an amazing year.